I think finally I found the perfect setup for Necromancer. First of all, this is a build for PvP and I am only using 3 5-star legendary gems, and you can use even less. I will try to explain everything about this build, including Reforge Bonuses, legendary gems, invocations, set and legendary items, but first, let's start with the skills we are using for the build. First skill I have is Borrowed Time. This skill got nerfed a little bit with the latest update, but it didn't really change it much, so we are still using it. This basically gives you a second chance to keep the fight going. When you die, you get back up with a curse which hits a good amount of damage to you, and to get rid of that, you need to get a kill or assist. Keep that in mind. Next, we have our first knock-up skill, Bone Spikes. I am using Shoulders and Head Essences with this. Shoulders gives the ability to knock people away, and the headpiece adds a bleed damage to the skill, and this bleed can stack up, which is really important because most of the damage comes from dots in this build. Next we have our second knock-up skill, Bone Wall. I am using Chest and Offhand Essences with this. Chest Essence changes the form of the skill and you summon a pillar instead of a wall, which knocks enemies away and slows all nearby enemies. But be careful, you can't knock the same player away more often than once every 3 seconds, so don't spam the skill for no reason. And with the Offhand Essence you can ignite these pillars with Soulfire primary attack skill, and that adds another dot effect to our setup. Next we have Raid Form. This is a very important skill even though it's not working properly all the time. I am using 2 main hands and a Legs Essence with this. I will talk about the legendary items in a minute, so I'm not going to explain them now. And finally we have our primary attack skill, and I am using Soulfire with an Offhand Essence, which adds another dot effect to the setup. Now we can talk about the set items we are using. Actually, there are 2 ways you can go with the set items. The first one is using 6 pieces of Banquet set, but I don't prefer that anymore. In my opinion, using 4 pieces of Barons set with 2 pieces of Banquet is just better, because 2-piece effect of Barons increases the duration of your harmful effects, which is really important for this setup. And 4-piece effect increases damage done from all sources by 20% to enemies suffering under your loss of control effects, which is perfect because this helps your whole team. And 2 pieces of Banquet increases the damage dealt to enemies suffering from your continual damage effects by 15%. Since we have bunch of continual damage effects, we have this bonus activated almost all the time. So in conclusion, 4 pieces of Barons and 2 pieces of Banquets is the way to go for this build. Now let's take a look at the legendary items I am using. For the headpiece I have Hideous Dawning. Bone Spikes now also causes enemies to bleed for additional damage and no longer charges up. Increases Bone Spikes maximum charges to 3. For the chest piece, I am using Exhuman's Backbone. Bone Wall instead summons a pillar of rotting corpses that knocks targets into the air, damaging them and then slows all nearby enemies. For the shoulders, I have Abnegation. Bone Spikes now also knocks enemies away. For the pants, we have Proximal Fear. Raid Form now causes enemies you touch to flee in fear and damages them. For the main hand, I am using Revenant Wind. Raid Form now calls 4 Cypress to hunt up to 3 nearby enemies, dealing 4.7k damage over 3 seconds, while reducing their movement speed by 30%. For the offhand we have this Bone Wall Essence. Bone Wall can now be ignited with Soulfire, dealing 2.8k damage per second to nearby enemies. For the additional main hand I am using Stroke of Midnight. Raid Form cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds each time you are hit. Cooldown cannot be reduced by more 1.5 seconds maximum. And if you have a vacant spot, make sure to use it on this legendary item because it decreases the cooldown of Raid Form. And lastly, for the additional offhand, we are using this Soulfire Essence. Soulfire now has a 25% chance to explode on hit, dealing damage to nearby enemies and causing them to burn. And for the legendary gems, as you can see, I am using Bloodsocket Jade, the Black Rose, Everlasting Torment, Pain Clasp, Seeping Bile, Fervent Fang, Mother's Lament, and Starfire Shard. I think the Black Rose, Everlasting Torment, Pain Clasp, Fervent Fang, Mother's Lament, and Starfire are must-haves for the build. You can replace Seeping Bile with Viper's Bite if you don't already own a Seeping Bile. I might even use them together when I get my Viper's Bite to rank 10, but that's going to take some time. And I think Starfire Shard is a must-have gem if you care about PvP. Even at low ranks, it still gets the job done with the knockback effect. Lastly, Bloodsocket Jade is kinda optional. If you already have it, you can keep it. I am sure you can be fine without it as well. But that doesn't change the fact that it's one of the best 5 stars in the game because it works all the time. If I talk for myself, in the future I might change my Seeping Bile or Everlasting with rank 10 Viper's Bite, but I'm not really sure yet. And this gem setup works really well for me as it is. My Fervent Fang is rank 9 currently, and I will be able to rank it up in a couple of months, which is going to give me one more awakened spot, which is quite important. Actually, that's why I am thinking about changing my rank 6 sipping with rank 10 Viper's Bite to get one more awakened spot. Anyways, that's enough talk about legendary gems. I really like this setup as it is, and you can just copy it if you want to. Now let's talk about Reforge bonuses. My goal with this build is to be annoying as possible, and that's why I have 3 pieces of Jolt family bonuses on all of my legendary items. Because with this family bonus you can immobilize the players that damage you. You can get duration of beneficial effects increased, damage taken from players reduced, and damage taken while suffering loss of control decreased attributes from this family. I think they are the best ones, but if you don't have enough resources, just get 3 random ones, you should be fine. But at least try to get the duration increase for your beneficial effects. For the other 2, you can look for primary attack chance to reduce enemy attack and movement speed attribute from Tremor family, and damage to enemies suffering loss of control increase attribute from Vengeance family. Mine is not perfectly set up yet, but I am doing just fine, so you don't really have to worry about the others after you get 3 pieces of Jolt family attributes. I think now we can talk about invocations and curse properties. I am trying to use as many invocations as possible with the Immobilize and Kestrel property, but they are a little hard to come by, so if you are using curse properties, Lashed and Detested are both good options. One other important thing about this setup is secondary attributes. So for my yellow socket gems, I am going for citrines to have as much potency as possible, and for the blue ones, I am trying to keep them balanced because both armor and armor pen are really important. But I would go for aquamarines until I reach a decent armor, since we are not the main damage dealers for our teams. Staying alive longer is a little bit important in my opinion. Now before we end this guide, let's talk about the Paragon setup as well. I am using Gladiator for PvP activities, and my point distribution looks like this. I max out damage, potency, armor and armor pen. After that, I use the remaining points on life. I think that's all I can tell about my PvP build for Necromancer. I hope you find this helpful, and if you have questions or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section. Now I will add some gameplay clips, so enjoy that and take care.